What's up, everybody? Justin here, back with a new Who's Better show between Bobby the Brain Heenan, one of the greatest managers of all time, greatest commentators, absolutely one of the greatest heels also of all time, and just also very, very underrated wrestler, Bobby Heenan. If you've never seen him wrestle, search him on YouTube. It's this Who's Better episode is where I decide I talk about both guys' wrestling careers. It can be this Who's Better show. Let me start over. This Who's Better show can be between managers, wrestlers, singles wrestlers, tag teams, announcers, commentators. I decide who's better. One of my most successful Who's Betters is the Steiner Brothers against the Hart Foundation. And I never claimed, when I started that show, I never said I'm going to show footage of the match they once had. And all my videos, all my reaction videos, I will never, ever, ever show WWE or WWF footage. I won't do it on this channel. I don't do that here. Don't like it? I don't give a fuck. Go fuck yourself if you don't like me not showing the matches you want to see. That's not what Who's Better is about. It's where I talk about their careers and I decide. So, again, my Steiner Brothers, Hart Foundation, I did not lie to anybody. That Who's Better show, I didn't lie to anybody or to fans. I was not dishonest. I never fucking said I was going to show the match. Just because I put a picture up of the Steiners against the Hart Foundation at one time. And by the way, it was the Steiners against Brett and Owen. Not the Steiners against Jim Neidhart and Brett. The real Hart Foundation. Even though Bret Hart Owen could have been called the Hart Foundation at one time because they were real brothers, in my opinion, Bret and Jim Neidhart are the real Hart Foundation. So my point is that Steiner Brothers versus Hart Foundation Who's Better show has gotten a lot of damn views. I believe 7,000 at this point, and every fucking day it keeps getting views. And I don't care if you're mad that I didn't show the match. I never claimed I was going to, and I will never show WWE footage on my channel because I don't want to be screwed and shut down for copyrighted. So, this Who's Better is between Bobby the Brain Heenan and Guerrilla Monsoon. Both guys had wrestling careers and were wrestlers. Some fans might not know that. They were first wrestlers before they were commentators or announcers. Like, if you first saw them as announcers like I did, if you first saw them as Bobby Heenan, the manager, Guerrilla Monsoon on commentary. If you first saw them on primetime wrestling, yes, that was their career. That was part of their career. But before that, before WWF, in the 80s, they were professional wrestlers. And pretty damn good ones, as I said. My opinion, Bobby Heenan, a great worker. Very underrated wrestler. Guerrilla Monsoon, damn good. Great super heavyweight big man. So let's talk about Guerrilla Monsoon first. He debuted, first off, he was born, if you didn't know, sadly he's passed away. But if you didn't know, Guerrilla Monsoon sadly passed away in 1999. I don't know why this information on the internet is deciding to not load right now for me to read about some of his career. Because I did not memorize his career. I don't know his wrestling career by heart. I was not alive when he was an active wrestler. So I'm going to have to come back because the internet is deciding to not work for me. So I'm back. Guerrilla Monsoon was born in 1937, June 4th. 1937, made his professional wrestling debut in 1955. Actually, he was trained by Stu Hart. If you don't know who Stu Hart is, he's the father of Bret, Owen, and the whole Hart family. So debuted in 1955. I didn't know that because I did not memorize Guerrilla Monsoon's career. Again, I wasn't alive when he debuted. And he debuted in 1955. His career was 30 years. He retired in 1985. But to be honest, I never saw him really do anything in WWF. Maybe in 83, 84, when he had a boxing match in Puerto Rico against Andre the Giant. And then late 70s or 1980 or late 70s, he was in the ring with Muhammad Ali and spinned him around, dumped him on his back. That was great shit. And then Guerrilla Monsoon cut a promo and said, a boxer will never be tougher than a wrestler. That was great shit. So, it says he retired in 85. But the only matches I know from the late 70s, he took on Muhammad Ali in a little segment where he picked him up, gave him the airplane spin, dropped him on his back, and then he had a boxing match with Andre in Puerto Rico. I don't know what year that was. I want to say 83. But, yeah, Guerrilla Monsoon, the guy was a super heavyweight and a heel. Excuse me, some crap in my tooth. Anyways, or food. Guerrilla Monsoon had a famous run as a heel and a super heavyweight main eventer in the WWF. Again, his career lasted 30 years. And he was not just a big man, he was a super heavyweight. He looked like at least 450 to close to 500 pounds at one point. Or at least like 380 or 350. So, he actually got his nickname, his real name was Gino. Robert James Morella. A lot of his friends and I guess wrestlers called him Gino, but Jesse the Body Ventura would call him Morella and Gino on the air. So let's go back to his WWF and WWF career. In 1964, started working for Vince McMahon Sr. Guerrilla Monsoon wrestled. I'm talking about his wrestling career now. I will get to his commentary career and him as commissioner. Guerrilla Monsoon wrestled Bruno Sammartino for the first time October 4th, 1964 in New Jersey at Roosevelt Stadium. Jersey City, New Jersey. So, see, I didn't even know he worked with Bruno because, again, I wasn't alive and I'm not an expert on Guerrilla Monsoon. I'm only an expert on him about his commentary career and who he worked with and what he did in the WWF when I was growing up in the late 80s as a kid and early 90s. Then I knew about Guerrilla Monsoon. So he worked with Bruno. I'm sure those were sold out arenas to see a super heavyweight Guerrilla Monsoon against Bruno Sammartino, the champion, defending the title. Guerrilla Monsoon later would team up with Killer Kowalski. They had a lot of success. In November 1964, they defeated a team of two guys I never heard of to win the U.S. Tag Team titles. Monsoon and Kowalski would reunite in the late 60s to defeat Bruno Sammartino and Victor Rivera in two falls to one match in a Madison Square Garden main event. Also, in 1968, then, he won the IWA World Heavyweight title. It was an Australian company. So, this is probably the biggest. He also turned heel for a short time. It says Guerrilla Monsoon was set to become a fan favorite in the 70s and feuded with top heels of the decade, including superstar Billy Graham. He then turned heel for a short time in 1977 and had a feud with Andre the Giant, and the two had a special boxing match. That's what I was talking about. That's what I saw on a DVD they released. Andre the Giant DVD once. That was on 1977, the boxing match between Andre Guerrilla Monsoon and Puerto Rico. Then it started like storming and a downpour happened. And there's like a giant puddle outside the ring. I believe it was in a baseball stadium. Probably for the company WWC that Carlos Colon ran. Or whatever. I think WWC was the main company in Puerto Rico, but I don't know if they were there in the 70s. Maybe it was IWA was there too. So in 1976, also says Guerrilla Monsoon with Andre winning the match in Puerto Rico is a face. He had major wins in Madison Square Garden over Killer Kowalski and Big Cat Ernie Ladd, 1976. Famous incident in Philadelphia with Muhammad Ali during a television taping for a WWF show. Ali was preparing for his crossover match with Antonio Inoki in Japan, and later that month, he jumped in the ring. Muhammad Ali, the most famous boxer in the world in the 70s, a world champ. He was damn famous. Jumped in the ring with Guerrilla Monsoon. And he started dancing around Guerrilla Monsoon while he was throwing jabs at Guerrilla. Guerrilla just was batting his jabs away like it was nothing, like it wasn't afraid of Ali. Then Guerrilla Monsoon grabbed Ali by his wrist, gave him the airplane spin, slammed him to the mat. And after he had an interview, he said, says what? Anyways, Guerrilla Monsoon, it says, never revealed if the incident was pre-planned. Anyways, I don't have a clue if it was. It might have not been in the script because it was the 70s and pro wrestling. So, anyways, Guerrilla Monsoon had a great wrestling career. His in-ring career winded down. He put his career on the line against Ken Patera. And Guerrilla lost and wrestled a few more matches in, I guess, the early 80s. So his final match was in a match in 82 where he substituted for Andre the Giant. And he took part in Big John Studd's Body Slam Challenge in 1983. He wrestled at WWC's 10th anniversary. Anyways, the next phase of his career would become the voice of the WWF. And he was a backstage manager for the WWF. I believe he had some ownership, I think, with Vince McMahon Sr., Vince McMahon Jr., Guerrilla Monsoon, I think had some ownership in the company, I believe, or stock. I don't know. But anyways, Guerrilla Monsoon, the guy has had just the guy had a great in-ring career. Great. For his time in wrestling, the guy was a super heavyweight, he was a heel, and he was a babyface. He was hated as a heel, and when he was a babyface, he was fucking loved. So he could do it all. He also had he had a great voice for commentary, for announcing. Guerrilla Monsoon had a great fucking announcer's voice. Very, very memorable if you hear his voice on anything on Peacock or any old pay-per-view. Right away you hear that voice and you say to yourself, that's Guerrilla Monsoon. Right away you recognize his voice because it's so iconic. To me, at least, his voice was iconic. Again, he's the announcer and commentator of my childhood growing up. I didn't get to see much NWA at all as a kid. I didn't have cable. I didn't see much AWA either. I didn't know when it was on. All I saw was Saturday Night Main Events, basically, and Superstars and Wrestling Challenge. That's all I watched as a kid. So, the only main announcer to me that I knew of and I thought was the best was Guerrilla Monsoon. Because I didn't know of anybody else. And I didn't care who else was in other territories or companies. As a kid, listening to Guerrilla Monsoon growing up, I didn't even know there were other companies really or territories until like 89 when I saw a little bit of NWA for the first time. My point is, Guerrilla Monsoon was a voice of my childhood. Great commentator. Started commentating with Jesse the Body Ventura in 1985. They were a great fucking team. So good together. Damn good together. You thought Gorilla, Bobby Heenan were good. They were. They were epic. But Guerrilla Monsoon, Jesse Ventura together were fucking great too. They just bounced off each other, had great chemistry. Jesse Ventura would say something like nuts or outrageous, and Guerrilla Monsoon would just respond and say, "Will you stop?" Or saying, "Get out of here." You don't like, it was hilarious. I think he mostly said, "Will you stop?" to Bobby Heenan when he worked with him. Anyways, they had great chemistry. Jesse Ventura and Guerrilla Monsoon. As Jesse was the heel commentator and Guerrilla was pro babyface commentator. They called the first 5 they called the first 5. Because sadly, WrestleMania 2, they didn't call a match together. That was stupid. But, as I said, they called the first 5 out of the first 6 WrestleManias together. Also, if you want to go back, Guerrilla Monsoon called the first WrestleMania all the way up to WrestleMania 8. He called WrestleMania 8. He was at WrestleMania 9, but sadly did not commentate. I heard a lot of stories that he did not feel well at WrestleMania 9. Maybe he could have worked commentary, but he might have told Vince, I don't feel good enough. And by 93, 94, Guerrilla Monsoon still appeared a lot on the weekend syndicated shows like Wrestling Challenge or Superstars. But he was not like full-time commentator in 93, 94. Even after WrestleMania 8, he did not call the next couple pay-per-views. He didn't call SummerSlam 92 or Survivor Series. But he came back at Royal Rumble 93 and did it with Bobby Heenan. That was great to hear. So, again, Guerrilla Monsoon called the first 8 WrestleManias. He was the lead commentator on syndicated shows, All-Star Wrestling, Wrestling Challenge, USA Network's weekend show, WWF All-American Wrestling. Also, he hosted the WWF Weeknight Show, Primetime Wrestling. Guerrilla Monsoon also, at one point, was the co-host of Georgia Championship Wrestling during the short time Vince McMahon was on TBS. So, it says about his commentary career, Guerrilla Monsoon stepped down as the lead announcer at WrestleMania 9, where he was a master of ceremonies. He was phased out of Wrestling Challenge, sadly. In 93, he was moved to All-American Wrestling. I believe that was in a studio where he was a host. The fucking network on Peacock, they need to upload all the wrestling challenges, all the prime times, even all American wrestlings. They need to upload all that shit. I mean, I would watch it because that's the era I grew up in. So also, Guerrilla Monsoon would return sometimes to Wrestling Challenge from 93 to 95. He called action with Stan Lane, Ted DiBiase, and Jim Ross. He hosted a lot of Coliseum home videos in the 80s and early 90s. Guerrilla Monsoon's last pay-per-view commentary was Survivor Series 94 with Vince McMahon. That was kind of weird. To have Vince and Guerrilla, both like babyface commentators, work together. Maybe Vince did that for Guerrilla. Like, this will be your final show, I want to call it with you. I don't know. So, yeah, I'm going to talk about now. Again, he's the voice of the WWF from 83, 84, I'll say 84. Or 83 he called a lot of shows before 83. He called a lot of Madison Square Garden shows in the late 70s, I think Vince called those, but he called some from the early 80s. In Philadelphia, Spectrum, live events, house shows, but they were taped. He called a lot of those in the early 80s and late 80s. So I'm going to just say he was a commentator and the voice of WWF from 84 to 93. So, my God, he called so many. Every Madison Square Garden big show that was taped every month or every 2 months from 84 to, like 92. He caught a ton of Madison Square Garden shows. He did them with Bobby Heenan. He did them with Mean Gene Okerlund. He did them with, at one point, Hillbilly Jim. And I can't remember who else. Jesse Ventura he caught MSG shows with also. As I said, he's a host of Coliseum Home Video. He's a host of Primetime Wrestling. He was the commentator, the main commentator for WrestleMania 1 to WrestleMania 8. He was at WrestleMania 9, but again, not commentating. He was a judge at WrestleMania 15, made a surprise return, got a huge reaction. That was great to hear. Sadly, he looked pretty sick and really skinny. But that was great. He got one last pop in reaction at WrestleMania 15 as a judge for the Brawl for All. He was a commentator for Wrestling Challenge from 86 to 93. And he was great. Again, great with Jesse the Body Ventura, but he was iconic with Bobby the Brain Heenan as his partner on commentary. And this was great. In 95, 96, I believe late 95 and early 96, he was the commissioner, the president, commissioner of the WWF, was Guerrilla Monsoon. So he was still on TV a little bit. That was cool to see. And this was great, I thought. Now, January 96 on Raw, he confronted Vader. I think it was right after Royal Rumble 96. Confronted Vader, like trying to stop him. He's out of control. And then Vader, like, pushed Guerrilla Monsoon. He, I believe, took his glasses off, started chopping Vader. Got a huge pop. Started chopping Vader, beating him up. But then Vader just took over, knocked him down, hit Guerrilla Monsoon with a Vader bomb. It was shocking at the time. I was shocked as a kid. And I was 12 years old when it happened. I was shocked. I was upset. I was like, what the fuck, Vader? Why the fuck would you attack Guerrilla Monsoon? I hate you now. So he was replaced as a commissioner because he was out selling that he was injured. So Roddy Piper took over. He had so many great moments with Bobby the Brain Heenan. He called a ton of big shows with him, live event house shows ever taped. He called with Bobby Heenan in the 80s. Never called a Saturday Night's Main Event, I don't believe. Now, Vince always did that. So anyways, Guerrilla Monsoon had so many great moments with Bobby Heenan. They called WrestleMania 7 together, WrestleMania 8, SummerSlam 91, Royal Rumble 92, SummerSlam, I already said that, SummerSlam 91. They called Survivor Series 91, Royal Rumble 93. They were together on all those primetime wrestlings for years. Like 6 to 7 years they were together. I think Guerrilla was off of prime time, I think in 92, I believe. Because they had a new format. And Vince was there around a table with Bobby Heenan, like Jim Duggan, Hillbilly Jim. But just all those pay-per-views he called with Bobby Heenan were epic. So entertaining to hear them two argue and just go back and forth at it. And just so great when Guerrilla Monsoon would say to Bobby Heenan, "Will you stop?" Just so great. Now I'm going to talk about Bobby Heenan's career. And at the end, I will tell you who I think is better. Because this is who's better, Bobby the Brain Heenan or Guerrilla Monsoon. Bobby the Brain Heenan, born November 4th, 1944. So he was, I believe, younger. Let's see Gorilla's birthday. And he's a bit young. Bobby Heenan is a bit younger than Guerrilla Monsoon by like 6-7 years. Bobby Heenan was born, if you didn't know, in Chicago. And he debuted in 1961 and retired from wrestling, but not in the ring, but retired in 2001. Retired from the ring, I want to say, in like 89 or 90. He did not wrestle anymore. Or maybe the end of 88. I'm not sure. Or sometime in 88, I believe he no longer had gimmick matches with anybody. So Bobby Heenan, the guy was one of just... He was a great worker, but one of the greatest talkers of all time as a heel. One of the absolute fucking greatest talkers ever as a heel was Bobby the Brain Heenan. For years and years, he was a manager with the manager of Nick Bockwinkel, the AWA heavyweight champion. So, and my God, he managed so many guys. So Bobby Heenan, as a manager, he was so over at just drawing boos and just the crowd not like him that he drew money. You could say Bobby Heenan outdrew like 95% of the wrestlers on the card. He was that over as a heel. He was fucking money as a manager. He was money as a wrestler too, but really as a manager and a commentator. And just a talker that could get under your skin. And I mean, the guy had some of the greatest comebacks of all time. Seriously, Bobby Heenan had some of the greatest put downs, some of the greatest lines of all time on TV. In my opinion, Bobby Heenan could have been a comedian. One of the greatest comedians of all time if he wanted to. He was that good. He was that funny. He wasn't just called the Brain for nothing. He was a fucking brain. He's one of the smartest guys ever in wrestling. Just one of the greatest heels of all time. So I'm going to talk about his professional wrestling career. Again, he started in 61. He explained in his Hall of Fame speech in 2004 that when he got in wrestling, he was only paid $1. That's how much he's paid for his work. That's not much at all, but he made it. He made those dollars turn into probably a couple $100,000 or maybe a couple million. I don't know how much he made, but he eventually made a lot of money in wrestling. But he started off making only $1. Think about that. That's how hard he worked. He kept going and going and making more money and getting more over as a heel. So he feuded in the 60s with Dick the Bruiser in the Indianapolis WWA promotion. He was known as Pretty Boy at first. Pretty Boy Bobby Heenan. 1966, he wrestled his first match. Heenan also said he was never trained as a wrestler. It just came naturally to him. And he was booked both as a wrestler and a manager. That's how fucking good he was. Think about that. Bobby the Brain Heenan was never trained as a pro wrestler. And look how fucking good he was at taking bumps. Insane. So during his time in Indianapolis, he managed Angelo Poffo, Randy Savage's dad. the Valiant Brothers and the Blackjacks. He got credit from the Blackjacks, making Blackjack Lanza one of the most hated heels in the country because he's with Bobby Heenan. And Sam Mushnick, who typically hated wrestling managers, believed Bobby Heenan was to be the only heel manager in a St. Louis wrestling club to work for him. So he went on to AWA, where he had a ton of success before he jumped to Vince in like 83 or whatever year it was, 83, 84. After leaving WWA, Bobby Heenan would be known as the Brain, made his AWA debut in 1969. Started managing Nick Bockwinkel, Ray the Crippler Stevens. They won the tag titles 3 times under Bobby Heenan. Bockwinkel and Stevens with Bobby Heenan feuded with the Crusher and Dick the Bruiser, where Dick the Bruiser famously called Bobby Heenan a weasel. And this led to his nickname, and the fans just going absolutely crazy. The fans would go ape shit and nuts, just yell, chanting at Bobby Heenan, weasel, weasel, weasel chants. That lasted like 15 years. Insane. He was so over as a heel. The fans were just chanting weasel at him to get under his skin, and my God, Bobby Heenan drew so much money because the fans would pay to want to see him get beat up. So later on, the Heenan family started the stable, the Heenan family in the AWA, where it was Nick Bockwinkel, Ray Stevens, Bobby Duncombe Sr., Blackjack Lanza. So then he went to Georgia Championship Wrestling for a short time in 1979. Also, Bobby Heenan as a wrestler worked in 6-man tags a lot with the Blackjacks. Usually, I believe, against the Crusher and the Bruiser. He returned to the AWA 1979 to 84. Where, sadly, Bobby Heenan went to Japan, AWA's tour of Japan in 83, and he got his neck injury in a matchup that would limit his in-ring ability going forward. 1984, Bobby Heenan left AWA. It was one of the last, if you watch the AWA WWE DVD, on the AWA, Bobby Heenan said on it that or he was one of the final guys in the AWA that jumped ship. He was one of the only guys that gave notice to the AWA, and he worked all his dates before he left. So good on him to do that. A lot of other guys, they just left the AWA. They didn't give a fuck if they were advertised. They left. But Bobby Heenan, he made all his AWA dates before he went to Vince. So again, that's damn respectable. So again, he gave his proper notice and went to work for Vince. Anyways, I guess Vince paid a lot of people to not work and stay in the AWA and not give their notice. I guess Vince paid them extra to not stay there. That's kind of wrong, but who cares? He wanted the talent right away. He was a ruthless businessman, was Vince McMahon, because he wanted to take over wrestling and become number one. And he definitely did. In the late 80s, WWF was number one. I would say they were already number one after Hogan won the title from Iron Sheik. WWF was already number one because they had so much talent by then that Vince took from other territories. And I'm sure Vince was threatened and just... This video's not about Vince, but I'm sure he's threatened and with, we'll kill you, stuff like that. Like, stop taking our talent, you're killing the business, what are you doing, you're killing the territories. But, again, Vince had fucking balls to do that. You might not like it that he did it, but he fucking had balls to do it. And he got away with it because other promoters didn't try to fight him back. They didn't try to keep the talent and pay them more. They just gave up. Vince also, for his syndicated shows, he would send his tapes to the TV stations and offer to pay them to put on his WWF shows over all the other territories. And it worked. As I said, WWF took over in 84. So Bobby Heenan was brought in as a manager. Right away, he started managing Big John Studd, who he was best friends with in the AWA. I didn't know that. He also had a feud against Andre the Giant, Legendary, which was at WrestleMania 1, Big John Studd Andre, where it was a $15,000 body slam match. Andre won. Started throwing the money of Bobby Heenan's, throwing it out of the duffel bag. And then Bobby Heenan stole the duffel bag, ran away. That was great. That was hilarious. When Bobby Heenan got the Heenan family in WWF, which included, listen to this fucking list of talent he managed in the Heenan family in the WWF. Strongman, Ken Patera, Playboy Buddy Rhodes, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, King Kong Bundy, Andre the Giant, the Brainbusters, Alpha, or High Chief Sylvia and Alpha. Ravishing Rick Rude, King Harley Race, the Islanders, Hercules, the Barbarian, Mr. Perfect, the Red Rooster, the Brooklyn Brawler. In most of the 80s, Bobby Heenan feuded with Hulk Hogan, and the Heenan family feuded with Hogan. He had a main part in WrestleMania 1, where he was a manager of Big John Studd against Andre. Bobby Heenan was in the main event spot at WrestleMania 2. That's how much WWF and Vince believed in him. He was part of the WrestleMania 3 main event with Hogan and Andre. He wasn't in the match, but he was still part of the match. He was outside the ring. He was a manager. He grabbed Andre by the head and shook him and said, "Come on, get up, Andre." Just epic. Bobby Heenan, the guy was just... I will put him over forever. He was so great at his job. As a manager, as a commentator, he was so fucking great. I know guys try to rip him off like Corey Graves when he thinks he's funny, trying to be Bobby Heenan. I'm not going to say Pat McAfee tries, because he doesn't. He tries to be himself. But there will never, ever be another Bobby the Brain Heenan. Never. He was one of a kind. One in a million. So, he retired. Well, I'm going to talk about... Before I get to some of the matches he wrestled, before he stopped in the ring, he was the host of Primetime Wrestling. And to me, Bobby Heenan had a bigger wrestling career than Guerrilla Monsoon because I believe he drew and made more money, did Bobby Heenan. He was a host of Primetime Wrestling. He was on TNT, Tuesday Night Titans, a lot, and he was great on there. He was a host of Primetime, and the co-host. He would always say, "I'm the host," and Guerrilla would say, "No, I'm the host. You're the co-host." And it was hilarious. And then Bobby Heenan had a phone on the table with him. He was always picking it up like he was talking to talent. It was hilarious. Like everything he would just trying to like ask for, it just backfired on him. When he's on the phone, he was trying to get stuff on primetime, and it never happened. Never worked. But behind the scenes, as much as they argued, Guerrilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan were best friends and really close. Again, he was part of Primetime from 86 to 92, December 92. He was fired on TNT, Tuesday Night Titans. He was fired by Paul Orndorff after WrestleMania 1. This was just, it was damn good. Try to find the segment on YouTube. Think it's on Peacock, Tuesday Night Titans. One of the episodes might be 85, 86 episode. I don't know what month, but yeah, he's fired. I don't think I can find it here. The date he was fired, but Bobby Heenan was trying to tell Paul Orndorff, we tried to call your room, and we couldn't get a hold of you before WrestleMania 1. We had a plan, and basically you screwed up, made us lose. And Paul Orndorff was like, I didn't get your damn phone call. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. You're lying to me. And then he's like, you know what, Bobby, you're fired. It was hilarious. And then Bobby Heenan freaked out. He's like, what? You don't fire me. You don't fire me. It was hilarious. Again, he worked on commentary from 86 to the year 2000. He returned for one night at WrestleMania 17. That was great to hear him and Mean Gene Okerlund. I wish it could have been Bobby and Guerrilla at WrestleMania 17, but sadly Guerrilla passed away. Just his Hall of Fame speech in 2004 is still one of the greatest and most funny of all time. Hilarious. Just fucking hilarious. With the stuff he talked about in his speech. It was hilarious in the Hall of Fame 2004. He at one point his feuds were with Hulk Hogan in most of the 80s in WWF, The Ultimate Warrior in 1988. The British Bulldogs, where he kidnapped Matilda, the Bulldog, with the Islanders. They kidnapped the dog. That was hilarious. Just he had so many great moments. Being kicked off on his final night with the WWF. He was kicked off on Monday Night Raw, December 93. His last show, his last date with the WWF. Thing is, his idea, how he got kicked off of Raw by Guerrilla Monsoon, grabbed him by the collar, took him off commentary, threw him out the back door with his stuff. He had like a duffel bag. It was just great how Bobby Heenan was, the end of his WWF career was so great. He was kicked off of Monday Night Raw by Guerrilla Monsoon. That was just so perfect. So well done. I mean, what can you say? Who's better? Either guy. Also, Bobby Heenan did work, showed up once in TNA and was in a limo with Bobby Roode. Like he was going to manage him at one point. I think he appeared in TNA once or twice. Also, Bobby Heenan actually called the WOW Women of Wrestling pay-per-view in 2001. I think it was February 2001. I think it was called WOW Unleashed pay-per-view. I actually ordered that at the time. So, anyways, both of these guys, Guerrilla Monsoon, Bobby Heenan, either choice for who's better, either choice is not the wrong choice. But I have to pick one. And in my opinion, who's better is Bobby the Brain Heenan. Is better. I love Guerrilla. I love him. Love his voice. Again, he had the perfect voice for commentary. And my God, Guerrilla did great shit in his career. But Bobby Heenan worked longer on commentary. He was still doing it after Guerrilla. He did it till 2000. And I'm not saying Bobby Heenan's better just because he worked longer than Guerrilla in wrestling. Because sadly, Guerrilla passed away in 99. And he was out of WWF after, he was at WrestleMania 12, actually, in the ring, holding the title in between Shawn and Bret. I know he's there for WrestleMania 12. But after WrestleMania 12, Guerrilla, I think in April on a Raw, or 97 on a Raw, April 97, I think Guerrilla appeared on a Raw, was yelling at Steve Austin, "You're out of control, get out of here," stuff like that. That was probably his last appearance on TV. And then he came back WrestleMania 15 for one appearance. But my opinion, who's better is Bobby the Brain Heenan. Who's better in your opinion? Guerrilla Monsoon or Bobby the Brain Heenan? Both guys just had epic wrestling Hall of Fame careers. Bobby Heenan, not just great as a commentator, as a manager, but as the advisor. You see this picture with Ric Flair. Bobby Heenan was the advisor to Ric Flair when he came into WWF. He was so great with Ric Flair. He was so great and so biased towards Ric Flair at the Royal Rumble 92. It's so great to hear. The whole match, he's cheering for Flair. He's like, Flair's about to get eliminated. He's like, no, damn it. And then he's saying, this is not fair to Flair. Just so great. That is probably the greatest, the two guys, the greatest night of wrestling commentary ever was probably Royal Rumble 1992. The Royal Rumble match between Guerrilla and Bobby was so good. So, my God, rest in peace, Guerrilla Monsoon. Rest in peace, Bobby Heenan. You guys were part of my childhood. I will always remember you. And when I still hear you guys, when I watch you back, my God, I smile and I laugh all the time when I hear you guys arguing. And the stuff you said to each other. It was so great. So great. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Hope you enjoyed this. Who's better between Bobby the Brain Heenan and Guerrilla Monsoon? Bye for now.